Hey, good Monday morning, everyone. This is Mitch. Hope you guys are having a great start to your week and a great start to your Monday. As always, Mondays hit hard for a lot of folks, so I hope you're making the best of it and having a great start to your day. We're going to give you an update on what is going on for today, Monday, April the 11th. I'm expecting severe weather today. Whether it's going to be an outbreak, a tornado outbreak, that remains to be seen. But what we do know is this is day one out of the next 3 days for significant severe weather. So stay tuned tonight. We're going to talk about and give you a more revised update as far as new information on what we can really expect tomorrow, and definitely begin to speak on Wednesday, as I didn't really speak on it much at all yesterday evening. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I am expecting some tornadoes in Arkansas today and maybe areas of Oklahoma. So we're really going to talk a lot about that and then talk about the entire nation as a whole. If you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and more importantly, gives others an opportunity to do so too. So we get a deep breath and let's get going here. So let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center. I mentioned last night, not to give myself a whole ton of credit or anything. I stay a humble guy. I'm normally not that kind of guy like, look at me, I called it or anything like that. But I mentioned last night that I did think that this was going to go to an enhanced risk for Arkansas for today, and it certainly has. There's now an enhanced risk up for Arkansas, and really that's because basically we got into the short range models and they consistently began to show supercell development. And sure enough, they continue to do so. So you got the enhanced risk in this area. That's level 3 out of 5. And really that's because they didn't hatch, but they opened up an area for a 10% risk of tornadoes in 25 miles in any given location. This is just north of Little Rock and really north central Arkansas. But you could see some tornadoes in far eastern Oklahoma also, right when these storms really initiate and explode here. But a 5% risk, also including Little Rock and Memphis, Tennessee, places surrounding that 10% risk. Wind risk is there too, but one thing I do want to mention is the hail threat. Now, there is a risk of storms into areas like Dallas, Texas, into areas of Northeast Texas, but there's a chance that you guys will not see anything. And really that's because there's a cap in place. Warm air aloft really prevents these storms to really get going here, and all the ingredients stay really close to the surface and are not able to completely explode and really get going. And you don't really get any big time storm development with this kind of stuff. But if it does, you have a chance to see large hail. So you have a hatched area. That means that you could have a 10% or greater probability of 2-inch diameter hail or larger within 25 miles in any given location in this hatched area, which is this black outlined area right in here. And then you have the 30% risk of hail occurring in 25 miles in any given location, basically in the same area that they're thinking those supercells are going to get going here. So let's go on and take a look at the HRRR for this region right now, the latest one. So we have early morning convection. I actually will show you this in live time right now. This is the convection going over, starting to enter northwest Arkansas. You got storms also in southern Missouri this morning. I'm not in the St. Louis radar, but there's a severe thunderstorm warning. This is producing some hail this morning already, waking you guys up here southeast of St. Louis. So there is some weather up there. You're just not seeing it on the radar. But this is basically what's left over from what formed overnight, and this is continuing to cross over. Nothing severe warmed in this area of energy, but this will continue to work its way through the late morning hours and start to work its way into the Quad States region, to the southern Ohio Valley and portions of that region here in the coming hours. So let's go on and look at the HRRR model and see what it is showing for this region as we're getting into the afternoon hours. So we're getting through the morning. We're starting to get to about mid-morning at this point. This area of convection that I just showed you on radar scope continues to scoot on through northern Arkansas, southern Missouri. This continues to move into areas of western Kentucky, and it could be some nasty weather about midday for areas of western Tennessee. So I have to see how this really continues to hold through here, but there is a risk of severe thunderstorms even through western Tennessee, and we'll see how much they hold together as they get into areas of central Tennessee and areas of central Kentucky a little bit later on. But still convection popping up in these areas, even behind this convection. But what we watch out here is, I'll stop it right here. This is about 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon for Arkansas, maybe a little bit later. Depends on when these storms get going, and I'll stop it. So look at these storms developing just north of Little Rock in the north central Arkansas. Look at this big one kind of popping up just east of that Oklahoma, Arkansas state line here. These could be tornadic. They could produce large hail, and these will continue. And then this moves through, and then another area of robust convection really gets going here in far southeast Oklahoma, western areas of Arkansas. And even these storms have the potential to produce tornadoes and large hail. But I'm really eyeing this area right here on the border of Oklahoma and Arkansas for some nasty storms. These will have all hazards on the table. And really one big hazard this is going to potentially have is large hail, guys, for sure. The upper wind patterns in this setup aren't super supportive of a massive tornado outbreak in this area today, but they are somewhat supportive. If they were a little bit more supportive, and I'll show you what I mean here in a second, meaning that low-level jet, those low-level winds just aloft, several thousand feet up in the air, were a little bit more supportive, a little bit more quick, and just rotating these updrafts a little bit more. This could be a big tornado potential for Arkansas, but as we're getting into later in the afternoon, early in the evening time period around 6, 7 p.m., these storms will continue to move in, and they will remain supercell in nature for probably 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours, and then they might kind of turn into more of a cluster of storms and kind of become elongated all the way from southeast Oklahoma through the middle of Arkansas, and then through areas of Tennessee. Tennessee's going to see some nasty weather too this evening, that's for sure. But I'll go on and look at the latest long range, and we'll keep this moving here. And it's already changing, right? Each model that comes out, it definitely changes. So be aware if you're in Arkansas today, especially this area of Arkansas right here, and then areas of western Oklahoma areas of eastern Oklahoma and western Arkansas. So a big question with northeast Texas is, does any storms really get fired up in Texas? There's going to be a cap in place. It's going to be hard to get anything going. Pretty much the HRRR model is saying nothing's really going to get going here. But I will tell you, there's pretty much rocket fuel for these storms all the way down into Texas. But look, as you start to get into Arkansas, we're starting to get into the late morning hours. We're starting to get into the afternoon hours. Look at this convective energy. So you got all this energy just kind of sitting below a stable kind of warm air mass just aloft, several thousand feet up in the air. And once that cap of stable air erodes, some nasty storms can explode in this area, just like I just showed you on the HRRR model. But this is a lot of storm fuel, CAPE, values reaching well over 3,000 joules per kilogram in surface CAPE. So there's a ton of energy for these storms to fuel off of. And sure enough, explosive updrafts finally make it through, explosive storm development, and you can see where it starts to eat up all that fuel right here. And then going through the afternoon and the later evening hours, the CAPE obviously begins to diminish when you lose that daytime heating. One thing you're looking at is this is that low-level jet. So the low-level jet's actually a little bit more kind of beefed up this morning, but as you get into the afternoon hours, it begins to lessen somewhat. So right when these storms really explode here, you only got a low-level jet pushing 30, 40 knots in this region right here. So you don't have a ton of support in kinematics-wise. You're kind of lacking, you're having a lackluster kinematic element to these, the severity of this event. Now, it is there somewhat. You're going to have 30, 40 knots of shear in place to kind of rotate these updrafts, but it could be way worse because you have all these other dynamics in place in this region. So you have that low level, the wind profile somewhat there, and then you have that moist air building too, which I did not show you, and I can show you really quick this surface moisture. I mean, you look at these dew points riding into this region, you got dew points rising well into the 60s all afternoon, and it's going to be warm, and not just warm, but it's going to be sticky. It's going to be humid. It's going to feel like an early summer day in this portion of the country, that's for sure. And then getting going here with a significant tornado parameter. And, you know, we don't look at this a whole lot because sometimes it's a little overdone, but I love looking at it just to, in general, show you where the highest tornado potential is. If the ingredients will cooperate in this area. We get to midday, there's a tornado threat, even with a little bit of convection, even over here in Arkansas and these regions here in northwest and northeast Arkansas. But it really explodes with the initiation of these supercells. You got STP values getting pretty high, and this is when it becomes dangerous. right here in western Arkansas, far eastern and southeastern Oklahoma, where some supercells really get fired up here. We get going here in time, and we'll continue to look how this convection evolves throughout the day. I'll mention, they'll stop this about midday this afternoon, midday, early afternoon, depending on where your location is and when your time zone is at, to what time zone you're in. Convection will be ongoing. So if you're in the Ohio Valley, Indiana, Ohio, you guys are going to be experiencing some heavy rain and showers. There'll be showers even into Alabama, Georgia this afternoon. So we'll have to see how much they hold. Will you get some showers into areas like South Carolina, the Carolinas, things like that? We'll have to see how it evolves. But there's going to be a nasty complex of line of storms here in southern Ohio Valley, southern Illinois, maybe areas of southern Indiana. How severe will this be? Not sure, but it definitely can produce some heavy rain, that's for sure. And then you're going to have rain into the northeast also. So this will continue throughout the overnight hours and then kind of drag south into areas and lose that forcing you need for really big time storms as it gets into Tennessee a little bit later tonight. But as far as temperatures, it is going to warm up big time today across a large portion of the country. So if you're in the northeast, it'll stay relatively cool. You're still being influenced somewhat by that upper trough, but you start to get into the mid-Atlantic, West Virginia, the Delmarva area, Maryland. You guys are rising into the 70s. In fact, some areas in Virginia will probably hit 80 today. The Carolinas looking beautiful, widespread 70s and 80s. Any kind of snow left over in the mountains from the last few days is going to melt very quickly. Florida, y'all are looking nice. The deep south, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, 70s and 80s. Then once you get into Texas, 80s and 90s, very, very warm. But with this trough is kind of sagging, you guys are going to have a somewhat cooler day but before temperatures really maximize tomorrow across the plains, the southern plains and the Midwest here, ahead of a big time severe weather event for you guys tomorrow. But check it out here in Michigan. A swath of warm temperatures surging. Detroit, you might hit the 70s today. And just a nice day temperature-wise across the middle and the eastern part of the country for the most part. Even pretty warm up in the Dakotas for this time of the year, ahead of what is about to be a blizzard here in the next 48 hours for that region. For my folks out west, you have a big-time system, an upper trough that's beginning to scoot in with a piece of energy embedded with it. So therefore, I'm hearing reports out, I think it was Medford, or either Eugene, where snow levels are dropped all the way to a few hundred feet. So it is snowing, in pretty low elevations in the valley areas this morning. But throughout the morning hours, you're going to have rounds of showers and snow. It just depends. It's all elevation dependent, right? And it just all depends on where you are. But basically, this is a big time system for the Pacific Northwest in general. Washington, Oregon, Idaho, getting into places like Yellowstone National Park, where you guys could see a decent snow event out of this. And the low pressure will begin to dig south and eject tomorrow across the middle of the country. So temperatures are pretty chilly across a large portion of the west. And then today, unless you're way down south where it'll be even warm, but even compared to average for this time of the year, that's still actually a little bit below average for areas in the west. But where the upper trough is digging, you guys will remain below average temperature-wise across most of the west. But water vapor loop, you see what's going on here. You see the explosion of storms developing across areas of Missouri and northern Arkansas. And then you see this little bit of a spin right here. This is that danger spin that will continue to move southward. And this will become a dangerous setup for the plains tomorrow as it continues to drag south with the pieces of energy embedded in it and will eventually become negatively tilted. And you can see it right here. This is valid for this afternoon. This will continue to dip southeast and it becomes a dangerous situation. It's not going to dig like you normally see when you get a big severe weather threat way down here, but you're going to still have severe weather way down there regardless, just because this thing becomes negatively tilted and becomes very dangerous over the next couple days. But this is a big time piece of energy right here. So tomorrow, still just to the enhanced risk. They have not upgraded anything to a moderate risk for your day 2. And really, that's because there's a big time question mark on whether you're going to have storm initiation. And I'll be honest with you guys, overnight, the HRRR model came in range and nothing really screamed that that's going to happen. So it's a kind of wait and see game. We're deep into these convective models. We're about to get into the short range of the short range models, if that makes any sense. So we're about to find out a lot on what is about to happen with this. But you got that, and then you have I really think Wednesday is going to be the most dangerous setup. One, due to the fact that I think you have more overlapping dynamics in place. Two, due to the fact that it's affecting much more denser populations. So Wednesday, we're going to break that down a little bit more tonight. But stay safe out there, guys. It's going to be a little bit dangerous out there today. This is day 1 out of 3. This could be a tricky one. It could be a more dangerous one than maybe what's being depicted out here. But stay safe. God bless. And hit me up on Twitter. It's a great way to stay up to date. I'll be retweeting all the information, storm chasing information out there as possible. So God bless. Have a great Monday, and I'll talk to y'all this evening.